Hello, and welcome once again to Loveland's Talking. My name is Andy Hiller. I'm the Public Information Officer here for the city, and we're here today, as we are every month, to share with you, the public, information about what's going on with your city government. Today, we're going to be talking about something that you must already be at least somewhat familiar with because you're watching one of them. You're watching one of the city's sources of information, Channel 16. As you know, however, there are several ways that the city works to keep you informed using several tools and avenues of information, and we're going to give you a summary of those, but probably of greater interest, we're going to concentrate on a couple of areas that are new and or improved, some major announcements, as it were. Today with me are some guests that spend a good deal of their time helping to provide information to you, the community, about things on a day-to-day basis and perhaps even on an emergency basis if something like that should arise. So I'm, as I said, the Public Information Officer, and since information is my middle name, I'm going to jump into this also and share some of the information avenues that we use to keep you informed. So, guests, if you would, let's go across the table, starting with Ed, and introduce yourselves, please.
My name is Ed Roth, and I am the Infrastructure Services Manager with the city's IT department. So I'm responsible, and my group is responsible for keeping all the city's computers and networks up and running.
Oh, okay, good.
And I'm Lisa Schwartz. I'm the Public Information Specialist, and I help you
Indeed you do.
inform the public of events and city activities and actions.
Lisa is a very hands-on information assistant. She's responsible for helping get a lot of the things we're going to be talking about out on the street, as it were. Pat?
I'm Pat Miele. I'm a lieutenant with the Loveland Fire and Rescue Department, and I work in the Office of Emergency Management.
Okay, so if stuff happens, you're the person who kind of keeps us all headed in the right direction.
One of several, yes.
Yeah,
we
okay.
at least give it a good try.
Be like herding cats, I presume, in
Sometimes
an emergency
it feels
situation.
that way.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well, that being said, let's talk about, to begin with, our biggest and broadest source of information to the city and, for that matter, the rest of the planet, the city website. Ed, I know you're involved with this a great deal. How big is the website? How many pages are there? How many people look at it? Give us an overview.
I don't know how big it is physically, but I can answer the other questions. Overall, there are about 820 pages of information on the current website. And as far as traffic and people who come visit the website, last year, 2010, there were 103,229 visits to the site.
Could you be a little more exact, please?
229.0.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay. Great. Well, according to last year's city survey, we do a city survey every year, we learned that about 60% of the households in Loveland visit the website for one reason or another during the course of the year. Some of them do it very occasionally, and some of them do it repeatedly, several times a week. So obviously the website is a popular place, and I do a drum roll here, but I think it will foul up the audio. What's the big news with the website, Ed?
Well, the big news is we are getting a total makeover, as it were, getting a brand new platform and a redesign for our city's web.
So in the city newsletter, I referred to our current website and as kind of a do-it-yourself approach all these years, where it started very small, and as it grew, it kind of branched out in different directions, and some folks in one department did it a little differently than another, etc. But this is all going to be kind of under one umbrella.
Yeah, the product that we selected for our new platform helps us make everything look more uniform throughout the site, and makes it easier for contributors to all have the same kind of look and feel and present information the same way.
And you mentioned having it look the same way and feel the same way. Those are kind of some of the reasons why the effort was made in this direction. Is that right?
Definitely, yeah. Both, to help the individual contributors, the people who create the content on the website, help them do it easily without having to worry about, gosh, what kind of font, what kind of colors, how should this be presented, and also to help the city as an organization put a quality product out there that's easy to navigate and find what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm sure all our phones have rung at one time or another with people asking us, hey, I hear you have some information in the fire section or in the public information section or the IT, but I can't find it. Can you help me get to it? So hopefully this will make life a lot easier.
That's definitely part
Plus,
of the
it'll
plan.
be pretty.
I hope so, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, in addition to just the looks, there are a lot of specific changes, and we have quite a listing here of them. Let's start with slide number 1 here, Ed. Without going through every single one, are there a couple there that really strike you?
I think some of the more popular features will be today's events on the homepage. Really, it gives you a current listing of things coming up throughout the city, and there's a link right there beneath that that'll take you to a master calendar of all events. I think that'll be nice for citizens. Same with news headlines, so current news topics will appear there with a link to a master list of news items from all departments. Also, the dynamic breadcrumbs will be an easy a feature that makes it easy for people to navigate the site and find what they're looking for, and also get back to where they came from if they'd like to do that. So
I love that term, dynamic breadcrumbs, but
Makes
when
me
you think
hungry.
about it, yeah, in terms of tales told, following the breadcrumbs back to where you came from makes perfect sense. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention or ask you to clarify a bit. So there'll be a calendar. Will that include all sorts of items, everything from boards and commissions meetings that may or may not be too exciting to parades and the like?
yeah, so the way the site works is there is a master calendar of every single event that our departmental contributors put on there, but there are ways to filter it so you can present a view of just council meetings or boards and commission meetings or community events, entertainment. So you can present preset views like that, and you also have the ability to make selections of departments or categories of events. If you'd like to say, well, I want to search for anything that Parks and Rec is doing this month, individual web users can do that on their own.
Oh, good. That'll make it a lot easier to use. Okay. Let's move on to the next list here. A couple of highlights here.
Sure. The emergency info on homepage is something that is near and dear to your heart, Andy, as a PIO. I think that it's a pretty nice feature. If there is an emergency in the community, we can immediately put a bulletin that covers up the main picture on the homepage, so anyone visiting the site will see information about that, and it'll contain a link to get more information that they may need based on the situation. City facility mapping is kind of a neat feature on there, so we can have a list of all city facilities, and that integrates with Google Maps so that users will get an immediate graphical view of where the facility is located. They can print that out.
I thought that was pretty cool when I tried it. If you put in an address like the building that we're in is next to the fire station, but if you type in the address, 410 East 5th Street, and click on the address, the text, boom, it'll bring up a map showing exactly where we are and exactly where Pat's office is. I think that's pretty neat. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that's how we list it. One of the facilities is Pat's office.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Font size adjustments is a nice feature for people throughout the community. Some people might prefer a larger font, and it's really easy to adjust the size right on the page. You've got a small area there where you can just increase or decrease the font to suit your liking. And the I want to buttons are a feature that we, as a committee internally to the city, we decided that was a really handy feature to help people navigate and find exactly what they're looking for on our website. So,
Explain that a little further. What do you mean by an I want to button?
So the notion was that when people come to the city's website, they're generally looking to do something or find something, and that's the kind of thing we want to list in a. Certainly there are other areas, other ways to navigate to content, but a lot of people can use the I want to drill down to exactly what they want to do. For instance, I want to pay my utility bill would take you right to that piece of information on the website regardless of where it's at. It could be nested 3 or 4 menus deep, but that gives us a way to get people right to the source of information.
Cool, cool. Button, slide number 3.
One of my favorites is the print-friendly output format. I don't know if you've had experience printing pages from the web where you get the whole header and all the Internet Explorer information and all that. Any page on our website, you'll be able to just click the print button and it will print just the content in a nice format without all the extraneous stuff.
Excellent.
We'll have a comprehensive listing of city services that will be alphabetized, and we're actually working right now on making that searchable. So you can go in there and type, again, I'll use utility billing. That's kind of on the top of my mind today for some reason. Any service you're looking for, you can type it in the search box and get 1 or more results telling you how to get to that information. And searchable staff directory, and that won't probably be a comprehensive staff directory, but it will give you contact information for designated contact people throughout the city for different departments.
Okay, okay. I think we have one more slide here. Anything here you want to mention?
Well, they're both noteworthy. You can create a subscription to automatically receive news within different categories. For instance, Parks and Rec, if you're interested in new events coming up, you can subscribe. So anytime a web contributor within the Parks and Rec department creates a news item, you'll get an email notifying you that that new information is available. And our whole new website will be friendly for mobile devices. So if you have a cell phone that's got internet, you can browse our new website on that.
Wow, wow, it's a whole big thing to fit on my tiny little phone, huh?
It's altered a little bit, but all the information is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Okay, well, obviously, the one thing everybody always wants to know, what is it going to cost the city for this makeover?
The contract for both the platform that the website goes on, as well as the redesign efforts done by the same company, was $58,000.
Okay, and I'll make the point, you may or may not agree, that we've never really had a webmaster. That's what I was referring to, kind of a do-it-yourself thing that each department is kind of, and some are better than others, that sort of thing. And I guess we've saved a lot of money over the last dozen or so years by not having a webmaster. So for us to spend, in essence, about 60 grand one time for a total makeover, and then have some consistency about how all this is done, seems to me to be pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it seemed like a good deal for the city.
And I'll also point out, there's one thing that I learned about it I think we've discussed it too, Pat, from an emergency standpoint. Right now, our current server for all of this is where, here in this building?
Correct.
So if something happens to this building, our website basically is history. The new server, the new outfit will be hosting this on their machine somewhere. It's not in one city, right?
Yes.
And then the backup will be in another location hundreds of miles away, so that if something should happen to the primary system, then the secondary system would not be right in the same building where there'd be a duplicate problem. So I think that's pretty neat.
Well, from an emergency planning standpoint, that redundancy certainly is a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. So, especially, we're taping this at the last week in March with all the flooding and tornadoes in Missouri and that sort of thing. And you can't help but all those incidents. And if something like that were to happen here, at least now we would have some redundancy and some backup with a source of information that could be critical to folks. So I think that's terrific. So,
Andy, I think you said March.
did I say March?
Instead of May.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm a little behind the times, but
We're
you
just
guys know that.
We're just about on our
okay.
spring runoff
Almost
season.
June. Okay. Well, with that in mind, now, folks who depending, this is a monthly show, so it runs all during the course of the month on Channel 16. So depending when a viewer is watching this, they may or may not yet see the new website. When is it scheduled to go live, as it were?
The schedule is to actually flick the switch, so to speak, the middle of June.
Okay.
So 15th or 16th
Yeah,
is
so-
that's when we plan to be on the
Cool.
website.
So, knock wood, hopefully everything will go smoothly, and I'll bet there'll be a bug or two to work out. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah, count on that.
You already.
Yeah, yeah, okay. All right, so if that's the big news, that's terrific. But as they say on TV, but wait, there's more. In addition to the website is a major communication avenue, the city actually has several social media sites that we have been pretty quiet about up till now, kind of. And we thought that we would kind of announce them in conjunction with the website. So again, this would be an imaginary drum roll. Lisa, what's ahead in that department? You've been actively involved in that.
Well, really over the last year, maybe 2 years, a lot of different departments have started social media sites. But again, we haven't really publicized them. They've just been, users find them themselves and they follow, but we haven't actively publicized. We've got Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube channels that are active. We've got approximately 18 now that are up and running.
Wow.
And some more on the horizon. We've got, of those 18, 9 are Facebook sites.
Okay.
And then we have a handful each of Twitter sites and then YouTube channels.
Okay, I'm going to go through them here real quickly, one at a time. Maybe you can kind of point out some highlights here. This is Twitter.
For people who know how Twitter works, it's a very nice, quick, easy way to get updates, information, could even be emergency information. CULT, City of Loveland Transit, uses Twitter to communicate with their riders about last-minute route changes. That could be something due to an accident, a resulting detour. So people have, riders have their cell phones and they can get up-to-date messages, and then they know where to go and what to do. So it's very useful for that kind of very timely, like this is happening right now kind of information. Facebook sites, one that is very active is the Loveland Museum Gallery site. That site has a lot of active followers, and of course they're following because they want to know what's happening. Loveland is a huge arts community.
Right.
And so for people who want to be up to date on exhibits and various artists and activities at the Loveland Museum Gallery, following their Facebook page is a great way to get those updates and just stay very up to date on what's happening over there. Same thing with all of them, all of those for all of the departments that have social media. That's the purpose, is to users want to get to the information they want. It can be very niche-y and specific, like Golf Loveland, for example,
Right.
through Parks and Recreation. Personally, I'm not a follower. I don't golf, but Loveland has a very active golf community. And so if they want to know about activities, events, tee times, things happening with different courses, they just follow that page and they get those updates quickly.
Very handy.
Yeah, very handy.
Yeah. And YouTube, we have a smaller representation on YouTube.
But it's out there. For example, every year, Loveland Water and Power does the annual hydrant flushing program. I think people are pretty aware of that. But you recently did a video, which is posted on our city's YouTube channel, which explains more in depth about why they do that, what all is involved, where it's going to happen, the days so people can plan around that. Covers issues like, the temporary issue of not very nice looking water coming out of the tap and what that means.
Yep.
So that's another avenue for people to get more in-depth information, and it's fairly quick. It's not a big time investment, so it's just like these sound bites
Right.
of useful information.
And one other thing that is on YouTube is this show. Every month we upload Loveland's Talking to YouTube in case somebody wants to see it again, or for those folks who don't have Channel 16 or don't have cable TV, can't get Channel 16. Anybody and everybody can see it online that way.
Yeah, you could
So,
be in Bangladesh and see it.
There you go.
Yeah,
There
and
you
I'm
go.
sure they're watching.
Yeah, I'm sure. Absolutely. Yep, yep. You mentioned a couple perhaps in the works. Anything specific you can mention, or?
Parks and Recreation is working on a Chilson Recreation Center Facebook site.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be up and running soon. Loveland Water and Power currently has Twitter, but their Facebook site is under construction. That'll be up soon. Same with Colt, their Facebook will also be up soon. And then the Rialto Bridge project, which people are probably aware of, is going to have a Facebook site. And that will also be published soon.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Changing the subject to maybe not, hopefully not very frequent use of our information sources, but just in case, Pat, we've got some information sources that are especially useful and can be updated pretty quickly in an emergency situation or a special situation. I like to use those two kind of definitions. How would you define them? Emergency versus special situation.
Well, with regard to, excuse me, public information, an emergency is going to be any event that poses an immediate threat to health, life, or property. And on the flip side, a special situation is going to be any event that's out of the ordinary. So an example of an emergency would be something along the lines of, let's say, a hazardous material spill on the highway. And a special situation would be something along the lines of the corn roast parade or a water main break, something like that.
I got you.
In both situations, our goal from the Office of Emergency Management is to make sure that we can provide timely and valid information to help the community become prepared for either an emergency event beforehand, while it's happening, or in the recovery phase and when people need assistance.
And one of the tools that we have to use that, which is very quick and easy to use, is the radio station. Tell us a bit about that.
Right. You and I have worked several times to utilize the 1610 AM radio channel, and that's a local city-owned radio channel that we use to provide messages for both emergency situations and special situations.
Uh-huh.
And it can be updated remotely. We can have messages loop or just have emergency messages that are constantly played. So we can really tailor make that to fit the needs of whatever's going on.
I know that a lot of people, unfortunately, probably aren't real aware of the existence of the station because happily we don't have that many emergencies, so we don't have a great morning show, so there's no terrific reason to tune in. So I'll make a plug here, 1610 AM. It's a little 10-watt transmitter, but you can hear it for about, depending on weather, about a 10-mile radius. And we have other different types of information to remind people of the existence of the station, and especially in an emergency, something new has been added. Tell us about that.
Right. In 7 locations around the basically the city periphery, we have warning signs. They're flashing signs, and those are the signs that have obviously a big yellow flasher on top, and then a yellow banner that says urgent if flashing, and underneath that it indicates that there's an emergency message being broadcast on the 1610 AM radio station. So as motorists, if you see those signs flashing, that means please tune into the radio or the city website or a number of these other sources, but especially 1610 AM radio to hear whatever emergent or special situation information that we want them to have right away.
Right. And again, in an emergency, 1610 will probably kind of give you, if you will, kind of the headlines or the highlights of what's going on. For the in-depth information beyond that, there'll be other sources, the website, et cetera, where that can be done. Similar to that is the telephone line. Can you tell us a bit about that?
We have an information telephone number, which is 970-962-2020. And that number provides a vehicle for many of the city departments to put recorded messages so that the public who's interested in getting a particular set of information, whether it's about street closures or a power outage issue or an emergency event, can select what type of information they want to listen to that recording, and then, if available, they would have the option to then speak with a live operator to answer very specific information. The idea behind this phone number is to prevent people from calling 911 dispatchers for non-emergency type information.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that clearly. Would you repeat that, please?
Yes. Our intent is to make sure that we remove non-emergent phone calls from 911 and put them at this number, which again is 970-962-2020.
We repeat that or emphasize that because people would be surprised how many people, when their sirens going off in their neighborhood, call 911 just to say, hey, what's going on? Or the road is closed, when will it be open? My kid has a piano lesson on the other side of town. Well, that's, 911 in an emergency, they've got real important things to take care of. So to get some general information and kind of the headlines again, the 2020 line is intended for that. And one thing we're also trying to do is for things, again, special situations. Thursday nights during the summer, there's a big concert. Not that it's ever happened before, will happen in the future, but it could rain, and then people start calling, well, what's going to happen with the concert? So a weather situation like the concert or a softball game being rained out or that sort of thing, hopefully we'll do an increasingly effective job of putting that information on 2020, so you only really have to remember one phone number as opposed to a different number for each one. So maybe the folks in the future will let us know how we're doing on that. But then again, hopefully we won't have any rainouts, so we won't really have to test it. Okay, we talked about Twitter a little bit before, but again, for emergencies?
There's two components of the next thing I want to talk about. The first component, I believe there's a slide that I can speak to with regard to the Larimer Emergency Telephone Authority, or LETA. They have a website which should be on your screen, which is leta911.org. The leta911.org is a website where the general public can sign up to receive emergency notifications, whether that's a weather-related, evacuation-related, fire-related, any type of emergent event, and that message can go to either a single or a number of different types of media. So people can select what phone numbers they want to be called, so they can either receive phone calls at their home or at their place of work. They can receive pages, emails, text messages, and they can also have alphanumeric pages sent to a standard pager. And the idea here is that anyone who lives or works in Larimer County can participate in this free service by signing up to be notified of any event that happens in a particular physical address. So they can sign up for their home, they could sign up for their children's school, they could sign up for their place of business, or all three. Multiple people can sign up from single households. That way everyone in the family can be notified of the places that are important to them. And again, that service is free. All people have to do is go to the leta911.org website and sign up. The second component to LETA is that LETA provides a service for that emergency notification. They do that through a contract that they have purchased, and that allows emergency planners like myself and the emergency 911 dispatchers to send out those emergency notifications. So what that gives us is the ability to send out real-time rapid response information. For example, if we have X number of minutes until we have a flash flood or a tornado, we have a much better chance of reaching large groups of people now that we can also reach people by their cell phone as well as their landline telephone, text message, email message, and pagers.
So you've got us covered,
We're
whether we're at
trying.
home, at work, if we're out in the ball field with our cell phone, et cetera.
That's right. We are trying to reach as many of the community members as we can.
And it's free.
And it is free.
Okay.
Yes.
Boy, that's great. So, again, leda911.org is where you go to sign up. If you haven't done it, you're doing yourself a disservice, I would think. Cool.
Yeah. As
Okay.
they say, if we can't reach you, we can't notify you
Right,
or
right.
can't alert you.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. And, okay, now this is just, however, for emergency.
Just for emergencies,
Phone's not
that's correct.
not going to ring because the softball game was rained out or that sort of thing.
No, and that's a good example of why the 962-2020 number would be a good number to remember, is that if people do want that non-emergent information, they can call that number instead.
Good, good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm going to jump in here and talk about a couple of things that are used for both emergency and non-emergency basis. News or press releases, our office and other offices throughout the city send out releases to the newspapers, radio stations, TV, et cetera, about issues and programs and events and that sort of thing, and that's kind of on a day-to-day basis. That's also done if there were an emergency or special situation, but in today's world, that's kind of slow motion. You know, that used to be the way to go, but now with the radio station and the website and Twitter and all those things, if there's a real special situation, this is probably not the best way to go, although the TV stations do a great job of picking up our output and then putting it on their stations and getting the information out that way. And then once again, whoops, I don't have a slide for it again, 1610, when it's not being used for an emergency, actually it's regulated by the Federal Communications Commission, so we cannot put on information about what's going on at the Rialto or a board and commission meeting, but we can put on information that affects people in terms of transportation around the city, so road closures or cone zones or that sort of thing. If there's a parade or a special event where the road is 4th of July coming up, 29th Street will be closed like it always is, and that'll be on there. And then things of special interest to visitors to the city. Again, people coming in for the 4th of July or for a special event in the city, the sculpture weekend, that sort of thing. We use it for that as well. So, okay, Ed, I'm going back to you. Day to day, you've talked about some of the special events for the website. What are some of the day-to-day events that are day-to-day uses of the website?
Well, generally just kind of like our website today, it's put together by people who are really knowledgeable about their jobs they do at the city, so they're kind of a wealth of information in specific areas. So you can get information from all those specific departments, things like boards and commissions, city council, utilities, parks, streets, recycling, trash, community events. All those things you're going to be able to get to general information and probably drill down into real specifics if that's what you're interested in.
And there are services as well as just information that you can access on the web. By sitting in your easy chair or your desk chair, you can accomplish several things that you used to have to get in the car and drive to a place. What are some examples of those?
Well, we will have the ability to do some more online forms, so instead of coming into a city building and filling out a form for a permit or something like that, some of those will be available at Go Live. We'll be working on putting more of those out there. We also have some online services for things like paying your utility bill. There's a bill pay application on the web. Parks and Rec has some golf reservation systems, and Parks and Rec has a rec track for signing up for classes and activities. Those things will all be, they're available today and will be available on the news site as well.
Okay. The one that I use most, the service is the library is online. And actually, I think they're kind of cutting their own throat because they've gotten very efficient. When I have an overdue book, instead of not telling me and letting me build up, my 20 cents a day for a while, I get an email telling me, hey, Andy, your book is going to be overdue tomorrow. So I go to their online service and click, and I can renew my book and cut them out of their 20 cents, with a click or two. And the other thing, too, is you can go online and see if a book is available and reserve it. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm a fan of that service. So, okay. Lisa, let's talk about another very popular city information resource, and that is City Update.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that.
Okay. Well, I know that 34,500 people are aware of the City Update because they get one every month in their utility bill. So it's our monthly newsletter. And in it, we cover a variety of topics. They're all city-related, of course. Usually, it's about a dozen distinct or different topics, and then we always have a focus. So this month, can you guess what the focus is this
I'll
month?
take a wild guess. Information sources?
Yes, that's excellent.
Amazing,
Andy.
amazing. Thank you very
you're
much.
right.
Thank you.
No, last month it was the ACE project because
Yes.
we had just received that, and so we covered the ACE and went into depth with that. And this month we're going in depth with our communications tools and the new website overhaul. So people, as I said, people get those in their utility bills. So whenever you get the bill is when you'll get the City Update. And that can happen during the entire month, starting from the 1st to the 30th or 31st.
Right. And a lot of people don't understand. Typically when you get a subscription to a newspaper or a magazine, if it's the June, you get it on the 1st of June. With the newsletter, you may get the June issue on the 28th of June. So because it goes out with the utility bill. And I will say that once in a while, we try not to advertise events that are not at the very end of the month, because once in a while our phone will ring because somebody will get their newsletter after the event and they're unhappy about it. So if it's a July event, it's usually in the June newsletter, etc., so that we don't wind up sending out notices, come one, come all, to something that has already passed. But once in a while we stretch that a little bit. If it's toward the very end of the month, we'd rather inform 80% of the community than none at all.
And then that's another good reason for people to check the website, and then also some of our social media sites.
Yeah.
Because then it's really timely.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we have to work a month and a half or 2 months ahead on this. So occasionally something has changed since it hit the press. Okay. Well, I'm going to go over a couple of other information sources very briefly. Basically, if it's worth putting in City Update as the focus, it's also often worth us purchasing some space in the Loveland Reporter-Herald for what we call our Dateline Loveland page. And that way, people who may not have opened their utility bill or not paid attention to it will see it in the newspaper. This is another example here that basically the same topic is covered in the Dateline page, on Loveland's Talking, in the newspaper, whatever, so that we can try and round out the information to as many folks as possible. And another way, if you happen to be walking through City Hall or the library or perhaps the Chilson Center, you may see a display with some city information from our office as well. And I'm plugging our office, but the reality is that the individual departments and offices also do a great deal of this themselves with sending out their news releases and displays and their social media pages and their web pages, etc. So we are all working together to kind of get the word out to the community. So, cool. Well, that's all I have. Is there anything you folks want to add before we call it a day? I can hear your heads nodding, or shaking, I should say, so, okay.
Double check with Pat on the leda911.org, so I can go on there and put in a pager and a cell phone and my home phone if I want, and if there's an emergency, I'll get notified on all three.
Absolutely, yeah. The way that the program works is that it will go to your primary or your first choice contact and then continue down the list. So it may not be simultaneous, but it will outreach to everything that you put in the application form at the website.
Thanks. Okay. Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. And most importantly, thank you all for tuning in once again to Loveland's Talking. Please continue to use this information source to gather some information not only about what we do here, but obviously city council meetings and other presentations here on Channel 16. And check out the new website here in a few weeks and tell us what you think about that. In the meantime, we wish you all a good June, and we'll see you again in July. Take care. Bye-bye.